Please like, share and subscribe. Title: Devouring Love. In the picturesque town of Ravenswood, nestled amidst rolling hills and lush forests, whispered tales of horror lurking in the shadows, casting a pall over the once tranquil streets. Among the townsfolk, rumors of an evil presence prowling the darkness spread like wildfire, sparking fear and paranoia in the hearts of all who dwelled within its bounds. Amidst the encroaching fear, two souls found solace in each other's embrace, Ethan and Amelia, whose love blossomed despite the looming spectre of terror that haunted their town. Ethan, a rugged mechanic with calloused hands and a gentle heart, had spent his life toiling away in the garage, seeking refuge from the chaos of the outside world. Meanwhile, Amelia, a spirited artist with a penchant for adventure, found inspiration in the beauty of nature surrounding her, her paintings capturing the essence of Ravenswood's serene landscape. Despite the warnings echoing through the streets, Ethan and Amelia's love remained steadfast, a beacon of light amidst the encroaching darkness. They walked hand in hand through the cobblestone streets, their laughter mingling with the gentle rustle of leaves in the wind, their hearts intertwined in a bond that seemed unbreakable. But beneath the facade of normalcy, an ominous presence lurked, its presence felt by all who dared to venture beyond the safety of their homes. Whispers of a flesh-eating ghoul prowling the shadows delivered shivers down the spines of the townsfolk, casting a shadow of fear over the once peaceful community. Yet, despite the looming threat, Ethan and Amelia refused to be swayed by fear, their love for each other shielding them from the encroaching darkness that threatened to engulf their town. And as they wandered hand in hand through the moonlit streets of Ravenswood, they vowed to defy the horror lurking in the shadows, their love serving as a beacon of hope in a world of fear. As Ethan and Amelia ventured deeper into the heart of Ravenswood's forbidden territory, they stumbled upon the decrepit mansion rumored to be the ghoul's lair. The once grand estate stood as a testament to a bygone era, its ornate facade now marred by years of neglect and decay. Ivy snaked its way up the crumbling walls while broken windows stared out like empty eye sockets, casting eerie shadows across the overgrown lawn. As Ethan and Amelia approached the mansion's imposing entrance, a deep sense of dread hung heavy in the air. The stench of decay permeated the air, mingling with the smell of death and bloody gore that seemed to seep from the very walls themselves. The air was thick with a suffocating aura of malice, a tangible reminder of the horrors that awaited within. With trepidation, Ethan pushed open the creaking door, its hinges protesting with a haunting squeal that echoed through the empty halls. The mansion was shrouded in darkness, the only illumination provided by the feeble glow of the moon filtering through the broken windows. As Ethan and Amelia stepped over the threshold, their senses were assailed by the sights and sounds of the ghoul's lair. Piles of decaying furniture littered the grand foyer, their once opulent fabrics now stained with blood and filth. The walls were adorned with grotesque tapestries, their twisted designs depicting scenes of unspeakable horror and suffering. But the smell made Ethan and Amelia's stomachs churn with disdain, the overpowering stench of death and decay that seemed to permeate every corner of the mansion. It clung to their clothes and filled their nostrils, a constant reminder of the ghoul's presence and the horrors that lurked within its lair. Despite the overwhelming dread that threatened to overwhelm them, Ethan and Amelia pressed on, their love for each other serving as a guiding light in the darkness surrounding them. Little did they know that their romantic escapade would soon take a sinister turn, plunging them into a nightmare from which there would be no escape. As Ethan and Amelia ventured deeper into the ghoul's lair, they found themselves face to face with the monstrous creature itself. Towering over them like a twisted spectre of death, the ghoul's grotesque form sent shivers down their spines, its sunken eyes burning with an insatiable hunger that chilled them to the bone. Its skin was pallid and mottled with decay, stretched tight over protruding bones, and sinewy muscles rippled with unnatural strength. Long, jagged claws extended from its fingers, dripping with the blood of its countless victims, while its mouth hung agape, revealing rows of razor-sharp teeth stained with gore. With a guttural growl, the ghoul lunged at Ethan and Amelia, its claws slashing through the air with deadly precision. Ethan fought valiantly to defend his beloved, his fists connecting with the ghoul's flesh with a sickening thud. But the creature's strength was overwhelming, its blows raining down upon him with brutal force. Amelia, her heart pounding with fear, searched desperately for a weapon with which to defend herself. With trembling hands, she seized a broken piece of wood from the decaying furniture that littered the room, brandishing it like a makeshift sword as she prepared to face the ghoul head-on. In a flurry of desperate strikes and savage blows, Ethan and Amelia fought for their lives against the ghoul's relentless onslaught. Blood sprayed through the air in crimson arcs as claws tore through flesh and bone, the sickening sound of tearing flesh mingling with the ghoul's triumphant snarls. But despite their bravery, Ethan and Amelia were no match for the ghoul's monstrous strength. With a final, agonized cry, Ethan fell to the ground, his body broken and battered beyond recognition. And as the ghoul turned its ravenous gaze upon Amelia, she knew that her fate would be no different. With every ounce of strength she could muster, Amelia swung her makeshift weapon at the creature's head, her blows fueled by a primal instinct for survival. But it was futile, the ghoul's claws found their mark, tearing through her flesh ruthlessly. As Ethan and Amelia lay on the cold, blood-stained floor of the ghoul's lair, their bodies racked with pain and their minds clouded with despair, they felt a strange, pulsating energy coursing through their veins. It was as if the darkness was consuming their essence surrounding them, twisting and contorting their bodies in ways they could never have imagined. With each passing moment, Ethan and Amelia felt themselves slipping further and further away from the realm of humanity, their flesh morphing and shifting into grotesque forms that bore little resemblance to their former selves. Their bones cracked and snapped beneath their skin, reshaping themselves into twisted, gnarled shapes that mirrored the monstrous creatures they had become. Amelia's once beautiful features were distorted beyond recognition, her skin pale and mottled with decay, her eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. Long, jagged claws extended from her fingers, dripping with the blood of her beloved as she reached out to him with a hunger that could not be sated. Ethan, too, underwent a horrifying transformation, his rugged features twisted into a grotesque mask of pain and anguish. His muscles bulged and rippled beneath his skin, swollen with unnatural strength, while his mouth hung agape in a silent scream of agony. Together, they writhed and twisted on the cold, blood-stained floor, their bodies contorting in ways that defied the laws of nature. As they felt the last vestiges of their humanity slip away, they knew that they had been forever changed by the darkness that had consumed them. With a final, guttural cry, Ethan and Amelia embraced their newfound existence as ghouls, their hunger for flesh and blood consuming them from within. And as they rose from the cold, blood-stained floor of the ghoul's lair, they knew their love for each other had been lost to the insatiable hunger that drove them into the darkness. As Ethan and Amelia emerged from the ghoul's lair, their grotesque forms twisted and contorted by the darkness that now consumed them, they felt a primal hunger gnawing at their insides, a hunger that could only be satisfied by the taste of human flesh. With each step they took, the streets of Ravenswood seemed to pulsate with otherworldly energy, their senses attuned to the scent of blood and fear that hung heavy in the air. The townsfolk recoiled in horror at the sight of the monstrous creatures that now roamed their streets, their screams of terror falling on deaf ears as Ethan and Amelia descended upon them with savage brutality. With razor-sharp claws and insatiable appetites, they tore through the hapless townsfolk like ravenous beasts, their hunger driving them to consume all in their path. Limbs were torn asunder, flesh was rent from bone, and blood flowed like a river through the streets, painting the cobblestones crimson with the stain of their sins. But amidst the chaos and carnage, a faint glimmer of humanity still flickered within Ethan and Amelia's twisted souls, a lingering memory of the love they had once shared. With each passing moment, it grew dimmer and dimmer, drowned out by the primal urges that now drove them forward into the darkness. And as they feasted upon the flesh of their former neighbors, they knew that their love for each other had been lost forever, consumed by the insatiable hunger that now consumed their every thought and desire. In the end, all that remained was the hunger, a hunger that could never be satisfied and would drive them forward into eternity, forever lost to the darkness that had claimed their souls. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the town of Ravenswood into darkness, Ethan and Amelia found themselves consumed by an insatiable hunger that gnawed at their very souls. With each passing moment, their humanity slipped further away, replaced by a primal instinct for survival that drove them forward into the night. But amidst the chaos and carnage, a flicker of awareness still lingered within their twisted minds, a faint echo of the love they had once shared. Though it was overshadowed by the overwhelming hunger that now consumed them, it refused to be extinguished altogether, a haunting reminder of the humanity they had lost. As they roamed the streets of Ravenswood, their senses attuned to the scent of blood and fear that hung heavy in the air, they felt a strange sense of longing tugging at their hearts. It was a longing for something they could no longer remember, a longing for the love they had once known, now lost to the darkness that enveloped them. But try as they might to suppress it, the hunger proved too decisive to resist. With each passing moment, it grew stronger and stronger, driving it forward with an unstoppable force that left destruction in its wake. As the night wore on and the streets of Ravenswood grew silent, Ethan and Amelia found themselves alone in the darkness, their twisted forms illuminated by the pale light of the moon. With a heavy heart, they realized that their love for each other had been lost forever, consumed by the darkness that now consumed their every thought and desire. And as they embraced their newfound existence as ghouls, they knew that they were doomed to wander the earth for eternity, forever haunted by the memory of the love they had once known, now lost to the insatiable hunger that drove them forward into the night. As the night wore on and the streets of Ravenswood lay shrouded in darkness, the townsfolk rallied together, determined to rid their town of the monstrous creatures that now roamed its streets. Armed with pitchforks and torches, they descended upon Ethan and Amelia with a ferocity born of fear and desperation. With bloodlust in their eyes and hatred in their hearts, the townsfolk closed in on the grotesque forms of Ethan and Amelia, their screams of rage drowning out the howling wind. The air crackled with tension as the two sides clashed in a brutal confrontation that would leave no survivors. The townsfolk lunged at Ethan and Amelia with their makeshift weapons, their blows raining down upon the twisted forms of the ghouls with savage brutality. Ethan and Amelia fought back with all the strength they could muster, their claws tearing through flesh and bone as they lashed out at their attackers with primal fury. But for every blow they landed, 10 more came raining down upon them, their bodies battered and broken beneath the relentless assault of the townsfolk. With each passing moment, their strength waned, their twisted forms writhing in agony as they fought desperately to fend off their attackers. As the battle raged on, the townsfolk gained the upper hand, overwhelming Ethan and Amelia with sheer numbers and brute force. With a final, guttural cry, they drove their pitchforks deep into the flesh of the ghouls, their screams of agony echoing through the night, as they fell to the ground in a twisted heap. But the townsfolk were not content to let their fallen foes lie in peace. With a grim determination, they hoisted Ethan and Amelia's lifeless bodies onto a makeshift scaffold, their grotesque forms illuminated by the flickering light of the torches that surrounded them. As the flames consumed their twisted bodies, reducing them to charred husks, the townsfolk watched with grim satisfaction, knowing that they had rid their town of the monsters that had plagued it for so long. But little did they know that the darkness that had claimed Ethan and Amelia's souls would never truly be extinguished, lurking in the shadows, waiting to consume all who dared to defy it. As the flames consumed Ethan and Amelia's twisted bodies, the townsfolk stood in solemn silence, their faces illuminated by the flickering light of the funeral pyre. At that moment, a sense of relief washed over them, mingled with a lingering sense of unease at the brutality of their actions. But as the last embers died away and the night fell silent once more, a chill wind swept through the streets of Ravenswood, carrying with it a whisper of darkness that seemed to linger in the air. And in the shadows, unseen by the eyes of the townsfolk, the true horror of what they had unleashed began to stir. For Ethan and Amelia were not truly dead, their twisted souls still lingered in the darkness, bound by an insatiable hunger that could never be sated. As the townsfolk returned to their homes, oblivious to the darkness that lurked just beyond their doorstep, Ethan and Amelia's vengeful spirits watched from the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to exact their terrible revenge.